Alright everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in today's video we will discuss everything you need to know about applying for a US visitor visa from Canada. In this video we will discuss which category you need to select while applying for a US visa. Next we will walk through the DS160 form. DS160 is your first step towards your application. I will also share some key tips while you prepare your application as an individual or as a family. Next, we will also talk about how to prepare your digital photo as per official government requirements. We will also discuss how to pay your visa fees and how to schedule your appointment for interview. Moving forward, we'll discuss the primary documents required on the day of your visa appointment. We will also discuss which additional supporting documents you can present to visa officer to make a stronger case. Most importantly, I'll guide you on what to expect on the day of your visa appointment, including some common interview questions and the best ways to answer them confidently. I will also discuss my personal experience while going through this whole process. Finally, I'll explain how long it typically takes to get your stamped passport back and discuss the available options for receiving your passport. So stay tuned for this complete guide to ensure your US visitor visa application process is smooth and successful. Before we start this video, if you are coming to our channel for the very first time, I always try to bring videos which could help you and help you learn and be independent. If you have any question, you can reach me directly through my Instagram account CanVisaPathway. Be sure to subscribe, as all the information I provide is completely free. Let's start and open your Google browser and search here DS160 Form and click on very first link. This will take you to official website where you'll select the location you're applying from. If you click on drop down menu, then you can see different locations available for each country. For instance, if you're applying from Canada, then you can select option as per your location. For the purpose of this video, I will select Toronto. Next, enter the provided code below to proceed and click on Start an application. You'll then arrive at this page and click on I agree. Here you can see your application ID. This unique ID is essential because it allows you to retrieve your application whenever you log in again. So make sure that you keep a record of application ID so that you can retrieve whenever you need access to it. Then you'll need to select a security question and provide an answer to it. It's very important to remember this answer because you'll need it every time you're signed out and want to log back into your application. Once done, click Continue and you'll begin filling out the DS160 form. Here I want to mention that if you're applying for a US visa as a single individual, you'll only need to complete only one time DS160 form. However, if you're applying as a family, then each member of your family who is applying must complete their own DS160 form. For example, if you're applying with your spouse, you'll need to submit two DS160 forms, one for yourself and one for your spouse. Let's get started with filling out the form. First is the Personal Information 1 section. Here, you need to enter your surname and given name exactly as per your passport. Here I want to mention that if your passport only has a given name and surname is blank or missing, then you need enter your given name under the surname and enter FNU under given name. Next, full name in native alphabet. You can leave it blank, so simply check the box does not apply. There is no issue if you skip this part. Next, answer whether you have used any other names, for example, maiden name, religious name, professional name. Provide details if applicable. For the purpose of this video, I will select No. Next, do you have a telecode that represents your name? Select No unless it applies to you. Next, select your sex from drop-down menu. For marital status, select the option that applies to you, single, married, etc. Then, enter your date of birth and place of birth here, exactly as shown on your passport. Once you're done, click on Save and click on Next. This is Personal Information section number 2. Here, under Country or Region of Origin, select the country whose passport you currently hold. Next, do you hold or have you held any nationality other than the one indicated above? Select Yes if you have and provide detail. Otherwise, select No Next, for the question, are you a permanent resident of a country other than your nationality? Answer yes if you are. For example, if you are permanent resident of Canada, then select Canada from the drop-down list or whichever country applies to you. Otherwise, select no. Next, under National Identification Number, you can enter your social insurance number if you're in Canada, but this field isn't mandatory. You can leave it blank and select does not apply. Here, for US Social Security number, if you've ever lived in the US as a student or worker and you have Social Security number, then enter it here. Otherwise, select does not apply. The same applies to the US taxpayer ID number. Now, you can save it and move to the travel section. Here, under purpose of the trip, choose the B category for business or pleasure. In the next drop-down, you'll see three options. First is business and tourism, B1, B2. Second is business, which falls under B1 category. Third is tourism or medical purposes, which falls category B2. Here I want to mention that when applying for a visitor visa, simply select the B1, B2 category, as that's the most common stamp issued on passports. So you're safe to select B1, B2 for your application. Next, you'll answer the question, have you made specific travel plans? If you have concrete travel plans, then select yes and provide all the required details in this section. If you're visiting the US for tourism, chances are you don't have exact plans at this stage. No flight tickets or confirmed appointments yet. In this case, you can safely select no. It's perfectly fine if you don't have detailed travel plans at this point, but still you need to provide intended or estimated date of arrival. Here, you can input the date you're thinking of traveling to the US. It doesn't have to be exact. Just choose a date that aligns with your general plans. For the intended length of stay, avoid listing long durations like several months or years, as this can raise red flags. Keep it reasonable, such as a few days or 1 to 2 weeks maximum. A shorter duration is often seen as more appropriate for a visitor visa. Now for the address where you will stay in the US. If you have friends, family, or relatives in the US, you can list their address here, even if you're unsure you'll actually visit them. The address should be accurate and verifiable in case they decide to check. If you don't know anyone in the US, you can provide the address of a hotel or Airbnb in the city you plan to visit. This is perfectly acceptable for the application. Next, specify the entity paying for your trip. If you're covering your own expenses, select Self. For family travel, choose the appropriate option and provide details about the family member paying for the trip, along with their relationship to you, for example, parent, spouse, or other relative. You'll also be asked, is the address of the party paying for your trip the same as your home or mailing address? If the family member paying lives at the same address as you, select Yes. If they live elsewhere, choose No and provide their current address. For the purpose of this video, I am selecting here Self. Here I want to mention that when it's time for your interview, you'll need to have a complete and specific travel itinerary ready. This includes details like where you're staying, your arrival and departure dates, and your planned activities. You'll explain these plans to the visa officer during the interview to increase your chances get accepted. Let's save and click on Travel Companions. The first question asks, are there other persons traveling with you? If you're traveling alone, simply select No. However, if you're traveling with family like your spouse, parents, or children, then select Yes. For the next question, traveling with group or organization, the answer will be No for most of people. If you selected Yes to the first question about travel companions, then you need to provide details of person traveling with you. For example, if you're traveling with your spouse, enter their last name and first name exactly as shown on their passport. Then from drop-down menu, select the relationship of this person to you, such as spouse in this scenario. An important note, as mentioned earlier, your spouse will also need to complete a separate DS160 form. You can fill it out DS160 on behalf of your spouse as well. While your spouse completes their DS160, make sure your spouse lists you as their travel companion. This ensures that both of you include each other as companions on your individual DS160 forms. The same process applies if you're traveling with parents, siblings, or other relatives. Click on Save and let's move. Next is the previous US travel information section. Here, you'll provide details about any trips you've taken to the US in the past. The first question is, have you ever been in the US? If you've never visited or applied to the US before, you can select No for all the questions in this section. If you have traveled to the US previously, select Yes. You'll then need to provide details about your last 5 visits to the US. This includes information about each time you entered the country, up to a maximum of 5 entries. Let's break this down with an example. Suppose you visited the US 2 times in the last 10 years. Your first entry was in January 2017 on a student visa, and you stayed for 2 years to complete your course. Enter January 2017 as the date arrived and 2 years as the length of stay. After finishing your course, you returned to your home country for vacation in January 2019. You re-entered the US in February 2019 on a work visa and stayed for 3 more years to work. Add this as your second entry, February 2019 for the date arrived and 3 years for the length of stay. Similarly, you can add more entries here. All these dates you can find on your passport as you have stamps on it. You'll add these details one by clicking the Add Another button after each entry. Next, there's a question about holding a US driver's license. If you've never had one, simply select No. But if you stayed in the US long enough to get a driver's license, provide the details here. For the purpose of this video, I assume that you never been in US in past, so select No. Then, have you ever been issued a US visa? If you are first-time applicants, then answer will be no. But if you've had a visitor, student, or work visa in past, which has likely expired now, the answer becomes yes. In that case, you'll need to provide the date your last visa was issued. For example, if you previously held a student visa or visitor visa, look for the date last visa was issued on your stamped passport. This date of issue you need to enter here. Next, for visa number. This can also be found on your previous passport stamp. The visa number is the number written in red. Here I want to mention that let's say you had a student visa of USA, then you also obtained a work visa, such as an H-1B, which means you have had multiple visas. In this case, always enter the details of the latest visa issued to you. Then, are you applying for the same type of visa? This asks if you are now applying for the same type of visa as your previous one. If your prior US visa was a visitor visa, answer yes. But if it was a student visa or work permit and now you're applying for a visitor visa, select no, since you're applying for a different type. Next, are you applying in the same country or location where the visa above was issued, and is this country or location your place of principal residence? If you're applying from Canada now and your previous US visa was also issued in Canada, select yes. However, if your prior visa was issued in a different country or in the US, select no. Have you been 10 printed? This refers to fingerprinting for all 10 fingers. If you've previously completed this process for a US visa, select yes. Otherwise, select no. Next, has your US visa ever been lost or stolen? Be honest here and answer accordingly. Next, has your US visa ever been cancelled or revoked? Make sure you provide right details, as misrepresentation could lead to rejection of your visa. For the purpose of this video, I will select above no. Now, have you ever been refused a US visa, been refused admission to the US, or withdrawn your application for admission at the port of entry? If you've experienced any of these, select yes and provide an explanation. Otherwise, select no. Finally, has anyone ever filed an immigrant petition on your behalf with USCIS? This typically applies if a family member or employer has sponsored you for a green card or permanent residency. If this applies to you, select yes. For most applicants, this answer will be no. For the purpose of this video, I am assuming that you have never been issued a visa for USA, so I will select no, click on save and move forward. Next, you'll provide your address and phone number. Enter your current Canadian residential address, the address where you are living in Canada. For the mailing address, it's usually the same as your residential address. Then, enter your phone number and your active email address. This email is crucial because it's where you'll receive updates about your application. For social media presence, you'll need to provide links to any social media accounts you use, such as Facebook or Instagram. Even if your accounts are private, you should still include the links. Next, do you wish to provide information about your presence on any other websites or applications you have used within the last 5 years to create or share content? So, answer to this will be no. For most of candidates, let's move and click on Passport. You need to provide passport information under Passport type. Select Regular. All other required details, such as your passport number, date of issue, expiry date, you need to enter here as per your passport, and make sure your passport is valid for at least 6 months. Next, have you ever lost a passport or had one stolen? I will say no. Let's move to next section. For US point of contact, if you have friends or family in the US, provide the contact details of one person. This allows US immigration to verify your identity if needed. If you don't know anyone in the US, you can provide the name and address of a hotel or Airbnb where you plan to stay. Let's click on Next. Here, you'll fill in parent details. Enter your mother's and father's names as they appear on their passports, along with their dates of birth. Then, do you have any immediate relatives not including parents in the United States? This refers to a fiancé, spouse, child, or siblings. Provide their details if applicable. For, do you have any other relatives in the US, such as cousins, uncles, or aunts? Answer accordingly. If not, select no. Let's move. The next section is about your spouse. This section will appear only if you've selected married in the marital status question earlier. If you're single, this section will not appear and you can move on. If you are married, you will need to provide details about your spouse, such as their name, date of birth, and other relevant information. When your spouse completes their DS160 form, they'll also include your details in the spouse section of their form. Let's move. Finally, we come to the work, education, and training information. This section includes 2 parts, present and previous. The present section is for your current situation, whether it's ongoing employment or ongoing education depending on your case. The previous section, on the other hand, is for your past employment or education. Keep this distinction in mind as it will be helpful when entering dates later. Starting with the present work and education section, you'll provide information about your current occupation if you're employed or your current education if you're enrolled in a university or diploma course. From the drop-down menu, select the option that best describes your situation. If your category isn't listed, don't worry. You can choose the other option and manually enter your job title. Next is present employer or school name. If you're a student, enter the name of your university or college, along with the complete address and contact details for their admissions office in case verification is needed. If you're currently employed, provide the name, complete address, and contact details of your current employer. For the start date, input the date you began your current employment or university program. If you don't recall the exact date, an estimate is fine. For example, if you started working for your employer in May 2022, you'd note that you've been employed there since May 2022 through the present. This section only applies to your ongoing employment or education. The next field is monthly income, where you'll enter your pre-tax salary. For the duties section, provide a brief summary of your job responsibilities. You can use a few lines or keywords from your resume to make this easier. If you're not employed and are only pursuing a degree, simply fill in the details of your education here. Now, here's a scenario where things might get tricky. If you're both employed and studying at the same time, the form doesn't allow you to list both your current employer and your current university in this section. You'll need to prioritize your current employment. Enter your job details here, and in the duties box, include a note about your ongoing education as well. This ensures all information is accounted for. When you attend your embassy interview, bring documents related to both your employment and education to explain your dual commitments if asked by the officer. This completes the present section for your current employment or education. Now let's move to the previous section. This part is for any employment you've had in the past 5 years, meaning jobs that have already ended. Do not include your current or ongoing employment here, as you've already recorded it in the present section. If you've been with the same employer for more than 5 years, that information has already been entered in the present section. In this case, you can simply answer no in the previous employment section and move on. However, if you've had multiple employers in the past 5 years, you'll need to list them here. Keep in mind, the form only allows you to enter details for 2 previous employers. If you've worked for more than 2 employers in the past 5 years, you can only list 2 of them due to the form's current limitations. So just provide details for the 2 most relevant or recent employers. For any additional employers, bring the documentation and your resume to your interview. If the visa officer needs more information, you can provide it in person. You can list your jobs from recent to oldest in chronological way. It's entirely up to you. Just make sure to provide all required details, including the name, address, supervisor's name, contact details, and the start and end dates of each job. When entering your previous employment, remember that all 2 dates must be in the past. If you enter a date in the present or future, the system will give you an error because this section is for previous employment only. Next is the education section. Have you attended any educational institutions at a secondary level or above? Here, you'll list your education history. You can arrange this from most recent to oldest or in chronological order. For example, you might choose to list your master's and bachelor's degrees. Going as far back as high school or secondary school is optional. It's entirely up to you. Let's move to next section. Next up is additional information about your work and education. These include basic background questions. For do you belong to a clan or tribe? Most people will answer no. Next, list the languages you speak. Include your primary language, any other languages you know, and make sure to add English. The next question asks if you've traveled to any country's regions within the last 5 years. This excludes Canada, as it is your current country of residence. Next, have you belonged to, contributed to, or worked for any professional, social, or charitable organization? Next, do you have any specialized skills or training such as firearms, explosives, nuclear, biological, or chemical experience? Have you ever served in the military? Have you ever served in, been a member of, or been involved with a paramilitary unit, vigilante unit, rebel group, guerrilla group, or insurgent organization? Answers to all these questions will be no for most of candidates. Let's move. The following are straightforward yes or no background questions. Answer honestly. Answer to these questions for most of candidates will be no. Do you have any communicable diseases, mental, physical disorders, or drug abuse, addiction problems? Have you been arrested, violated any laws, committed fraud, or engaged in criminal or terrorist activities? Hopefully the answers to these are no. If not, provide truthful details where necessary. So answers to all these background questions is no. For most of cases, so read them once, at least for purpose of this video, I am checking out no. Here it says, have you ever been removed or deported from any country? You must answer truthfully. Lying here is a bad idea, as US officers are likely to already have this information. Providing false details will only create bigger problems. So, this completes the security and background section. Next is uploading your photo. There are two ways you can handle this section. First way is you upload your digital photo here in this section before you submit your application online, and second way is you submit this DS160 form without your digital photo and take a physical photo to embassy on the day of your appointment. Let's start with the digital image preparation and how to upload it to your application. On the photo upload page, click Upload Your Photo. This will bring you to the upload screen. To ensure your photo meets the requirements, click the Image Requirements link. This will take you to a page that lists all the necessary photo guidelines. As for the photo itself, all requirements which you need to follow are given here. Make sure to follow them. Here I want to mention that the photo must have been taken within the last 6 months. Follow these instructions carefully to ensure your digital image meets all the requirements. Take your time to review the guidelines to avoid any errors. Click on the photo example link to see examples of acceptable photos. Carefully review these examples to understand what types of photos are acceptable and which ones are not. On this page, you'll also find the digital image requirements link, which provides specific guidelines for your photo. According to these requirements, the photo must be in JPEG format and must not exceed 240 KB in size. The photo should have a square aspect ratio 1:1, meaning the height and width of the photo must be equal. The most important part is the dimensions. The photo's height and width should be at least 600 by 600 pixels or larger. Your image must meet or exceed these minimum dimensions to be accepted. The maximum dimensions allowed are 1200 by 1200 pixels. If you're preparing the photo yourself, the website provides a helpful photo tool. You can use this tool to crop and resize your image to meet the required dimensions. To use it, simply upload your digital photo and the tool will adjust the cropping and resizing for you. However, it's not always as straightforward as it seems. Many people upload their photos expecting the tool to handle everything automatically, but the tool often rejects images that don't meet the initial requirements. This can lead to confusion. You may need to adjust your digital image first to make sure it meets the tool's minimum criteria before uploading it. If you are not able to upload your picture online, then you can carry your physical photo. The easiest way to get a compliant digital image is to visit a photography studio or a passport photo center. Show them the official requirements and they should be able to provide you with the correct digital image. If you want to prepare the digital image at home, then you can do it easily as well. If you have professional photo taken in past 6 months which has white background, or if you have hard copy which is recently prepared, then scan it and you can use online tool to prepare your photo. Lastly, you can take new photo by yourself at home using your camera or smartphone with white background and good lighting to avoid shadows. Position your head in the center of the frame and ask someone to take the picture for you. Avoid taking a selfie as this is not recommended. Now once you have a digital photo, if you hover your mouse over photo, you will see that this photo is of 2709 by 3790 pixels. Total size is 4.4 MB, which exceeds official requirement. The applicant's photo has to be minimum of 600 pixels by 600 pixels, or maximum dimension should be 1200 by 1200 pixels, which is a perfect square. So to modify this photo, let's right click on this photo and open with photos. Here click on edit, then again click on free and select square, as our picture has to be square, and adjust your picture and click on Save Options and Save as Copy. Even after making it square picture, you can see that pixels are higher than official requirement. So let's again open this photo with Paint this time and click on Resize and Skew option under Image and enter a number which is in official range. So I will enter here 1000 by 1000 pixels and save it. Your picture is done and you are good to upload it to online portal. But there is another way to prepare your picture. Simply click on this link, Start Photo Tool, click on Choose Picture which you want to prepare. It will automatically crop your picture. The next step is to download the processed image from the photo tool. Save it to your local device and head back to the DS160 application photo upload section. Now we have two images which we prepared. First image we prepared manually, and second we prepared using automatically crop tool. You can try to upload any of these pictures. If the upload is successful, you'll see a green prompt confirming that the image has passed the test. On the next page, you'll see the uploaded photo in this section here. Now click Review. Check that the photo is satisfactory and also review the rest of your application to ensure everything is correct. If changes are needed, this is the time to make them. Finally, proceed to the Sign and Submit page. Enter your passport number and the provided code, then click Sign and Submit. Once you submit, make sure that you make PDF of your application, as you will not able to see your submitted information. As you have submitted your application, you'll receive an email with a confirmation of submission attached. Print this confirmation document because you'll need to bring it to the embassy on the day of your interview. This document is your DS160 submission confirmation. If you're applying as an individual, your online application process is complete. You can now proceed to schedule your appointment and pay the fees. If you're applying as a couple or with your family, remember that each family member must complete their own DS160. For example, if the husband completes the DS160 first, the wife must then complete her own DS160. Both individuals will receive separate DS160 submission confirmations. Let's move. To pay the fees and book your appointment from Canada, open your Google browser and search US Visa Appointment Login and click on very first link. I'll leave a link to this page in the description. For individual applicants, the process is simple. You need to create an account by clicking here and book appointment through your account. If you already have an account, then simply log in and book your appointment. But if you're applying with family members, such as your spouse or parents, the process is slightly different. You will coordinate the appointments for all family members applying together. If you're applying with family members, you only need to create one account for the entire family. Through this single account, you can pay the fees and book appointments for all family members together. There's no need for each family member to create their own account. Let me explain how this works. So, click on Create an Account, scroll down and select the option. I am a non-Canadian citizen residing in Canada who has completed the DS160. After selecting this, click Continue. You need to create your account by filling out information here. Enter your given name and surname exactly as it appears on your passport. Provide your email address where you'd like to receive communications. Create a password. After completing these steps, you'll receive an activation link in your email. Open your email, click the activation link, and your account will be ready to use. Next, click Continue at the activation message, and you'll be taken to a new page where you'll add yourself and any family members who are applying with you. Start by entering your own details, first name and last name as per your passport, passport issuing country, country of birth, and country of permanent residence, then your passport number. Then enter DS160 number. This is the 10-digit number which you can find on DS160 submitted form. Next is visa class. For example, B1/B2 if that's what you selected in your DS160 application. Then enter date of birth, phone number, and your email address for communication. Then if you were previously issued a US visa, include those details here. Otherwise, select No, Next. For the question about traveling from another country, if you're applying from Canada, select No. Since you're not traveling from another country to apply, once all details are entered, click Create Applicant. Double check the information, and if everything matches correctly, select Yes to continue. Next, you'll be asked if you want to add another applicant. If you're applying alone, you can move on to the next step by answering No here. However, if you're applying with family members, for example, your spouse, click Add Applicant and fill in their details just like you did for yourself. Make sure you add all details correctly. Once you've added all applicants, the system will ask you to choose a passport collection branch where you want to pick up the stamped passports after processing. Select your province from drop-down and then choose the branch that is most convenient for you for pickup of your passport. Next, enter your complete Canadian address here and click Continue. Next, you'll reach to this fee summary page. For one person, the visa fee is $185 USD, which you can pay by cash or using your Visa credit card or MasterCard. On the right side, you can see when will you be able to get your first available appointment for your visa interview. Waiting times are quite long. Later in this video, I will discuss how you can book earlier visa appointment dates. Click on Continue button. So, enter your billing address here and your credit card or MasterCard details to complete the transaction. Once you fill out these details, click on Make Payment button. Once the payment is successful, you'll receive an email with the subject line US DOS, Department of State Visa System Confirmation of Successful Payment. This email serves as your receipt, so save it for reference. After making the payment, you'll move on to the next section, which is to schedule the appointment. Once the scheduling option becomes available, click on it and you'll be prompted to select the location where you'd like to attend your interview. After selecting the location, you'll see the available dates. Keep scrolling until you find the first available date. Don't expect any near-term dates. The earliest available date will likely be 1 or 2 years in the future. This is completely normal and the same for everyone. For now, simply complete the process and schedule the appointment for the earliest date you can find. But I will discuss in coming part of this video that how you can schedule your visa appointment on earlier dates. Once you've scheduled the appointment, you'll receive an email confirmation with all the details. This email will include your appointment date and the name of the center, a list of the primary documents you need to bring on the day of your interview at US Embassy. If we scroll down, you will also find suggestions for additional documents that can strengthen your chances to get visa by proving your visit to the US is temporary and that you will return to Canada once your trip is over. This will increase your chances to get US visa. We'll discuss these documents in detail. But first, let's address the long wait times of US visa appointment and how you might secure an earlier appointment. Open your Google browser and search here US visa waiting time from Canada. Let's check what our present wait time for US visa appointment from Canada. For example, if you select Toronto, the wait time for a B1-B2 visa is approximately 691 days, about 20 months. Other locations like Ottawa has little more time than Toronto. You can also explore Vancouver, Calgary, etc. Might have slightly different wait times, but they are usually similar. On average, expect a wait time of 18 months or more. However, there is a way to potentially get an earlier appointment. This process requires persistence, patience, and a bit of luck. Here's how it works. First, schedule your initial appointment for whatever date is available, even if it's 1 or 2 years away. This step is necessary for the rescheduling option to work. After booking your initial appointment, log back into your account on the same website and look for the reschedule appointment option. Click on it and check if any earlier dates have opened up. Cancellations happen frequently and new slots are added sometimes, so new slots may become available at random times. When someone cancels their appointment, that date opens up for others to book. Scroll through the available dates regularly as you might find a slot 2 weeks, 6 weeks, or a few months away. For example, my original appointment was scheduled 18 months in the future. However, by checking the reschedule option every couple of days at random times, I was able to find an appointment 5 months away. You can do even better by using this trick. Here I want to mention that your success depends on how frequently you check and your level of persistence. If you're not in a hurry, you can check occasionally without dedicating much time to it. If you're actively looking for an earlier slot, logging in regularly increases your chances. This is the only legitimate method to reschedule your appointment. Be cautious and avoid falling for offers where people sell appointment slots for a fee. I have seen many people on Instagram and other social media platforms will try to scam you and will ask you to pay money for that, and might you lose up your credentials of your account, which has already happened to one of my friend. So make sure that you do not get scammed. Now let's discuss which documents you need to bring with you on the day of visa interview. Here's what you'll need on the day of your appointment. First is your original and valid current passport. A passport containing the most recently issued US visa, if applicable. If this is your first application, this doesn't apply to you. Your DS160 confirmation page, received via email after completing the DS160 submission. Next is the appointment confirmation page, a printout of the email. A physical 2" by 2" color photo taken within the last 6 months. This is only required if you have not submitted your photo on DS160 Form. For the photo, ensure it meets the requirements we discussed earlier for the digital image. Visit a professional photography studio and tell them it's for a US tourist visa. They'll know the specifications. The embassy is very particular about the quality of the physical photo, so ensure it's done correctly moving forward. Now, if you're traveling with family members, there are additional requirements. For couples, make sure to carry a marriage certificate to prove your relationship to your spouse. Next, if traveling with a child under 21, carry their birth certificate. You'll also need proof of your legal status in Canada. If you're a permanent resident, bring your PR card. If you're on a student visa or work permit, bring your visa documents, preferably the originals, even if only copies are requested. Here I want to mention that above listed required documents for US visa, you can also find on your appointment confirmation email. Let's move. Apart from list of documents which we have discussed earlier, additional supporting documents can significantly increase your chances of getting a US visa. One of the key requirements is to prove your intent to return to Canada. This can be done by demonstrating strong ties to the country. This involves demonstrating strong ties to the country through various types of documentation. Let's say if you are employed in Canada, you can establish these ties by presenting your employment or job offer letter and last 2 pay stubs, which will help to prove your ties. And you can also carry your notice of assessment from the previous year. These documents show that you have ongoing employment and responsibilities in Canada, reinforcing your commitment to return. Next, if you are a university student, then you can demonstrate ties to Canada by providing a copy of your valid student visa or your university registration documents, such as an admission letter or transcripts, and any additional paperwork proving active enrollment in an academic program. These documents confirm your educational commitments, making it clear that your stay in US is temporary. Another important way to establish ties is by proving your current residence in Canada. This can include lease agreements of your apartment or condo, home ownership documents if you have any, or a government-issued ID that shows your Canadian address. These documents highlight your living situation and underline your connection to Canada. Additionally, you must demonstrate your financial ability to afford the trip. This involves providing 3 to 6 months of bank statements showing sufficient funds to cover all expenses such as flights, accommodation, car rentals, food, and activities. While there is no specific amount required, your bank balance should comfortably cover the estimated cost of the trip. By combining these documents, you can create a strong case for your application, showing that you have genuine travel intentions, sufficient financial resources, and a clear plan to return to Canada after your visit to the US. Let's move forward and discuss what should you do and what to expect on the day of your visa appointment. On the day of your appointment, arrive with your application packet fully prepared. The process includes the following steps. When you will enter to embassy, first thing will happen. You need to go through security clearance. Once you clear your security clearance, then you will head toward fingerprint window. This step involves scanning your fingerprints. Once you're done with fingerprints, then you will line up in queue for interview. This is the final stage. Here I want to mention that as per my personal experience, they will ask you very basic question, but interview questions may vary depending on the case. But here are some common questions to expect. What is your purpose for visiting the United States? Since you're applying for a tourist visa, answers like tourism, vacation, or travel are appropriate. Do some research about places you want to visit during your visit to USA. Next, have you been to the US before? Be truthful. If you visited before, regardless of the reason or duration, even if you overstayed your visa, disclose it honestly. The officer can see this in their system if you've been to US in past or not. Next, how long do you plan to stay in the US? Provide a realistic duration. Avoid mentioning long stays like several months or years. Your answer should match the details in your DS160. Next, where do you plan to go in the US? Have a detailed itinerary ready, including places you intend to visit. You need to remember the place where you want to visit during your trip. Next, do you have friends, family, or relatives in the US? If yes, disclose their information and your plans to visit them. What do you do in Canada? Discuss your job or education. Be prepared to present supporting documents like employment verification letters or university enrollment records if asked. Based on experience, visa officers usually assess the genuineness of your case within the first 2 to 3 minutes. They may not ask many questions, but it's best to be prepared with clear, honest answers. Don't be nervous, stay confident and truthful, and you'll be fine. After the interview, the officers will keep your passports and you can leave. Once your stamped passports are ready, you'll receive an email notification with the tracking number for delivery. Passports will be sent to the address you selected during the scheduling process. Delivery typically takes 2 to 3 weeks. The US B1 B2 visa stamped in your passport is valid for 10 years. Even your passport expires early still. B1 B2 visa is valid for 10 years. I hope you guys find my videos useful. I always try to bring videos which could help you and help you learn and be independent. If you like our video, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching and best of luck with your applications.